Yeah, miss.
Afternoon, miss.
Good afternoon, Jaden. Good afternoon, Keenan. Can you hear me?
Yes, miss. Good afternoon.
And welcome, Shivan. Can you hear me as well?
Yes, miss.
Good afternoon. So we just want to welcome Shivan. Shivan is actually a student of Trinity College East. Is that right, or is it the other one? Shivan?
Yes, miss.
Is it Trinity East or which Trinity?
Opportunities.
Okay, all right. So welcome. We actually have Keenan. Keenan, aren't you from Trinity?
Yes, miss.
Okay, so I guess you all probably perhaps know each other, small world. We just want to welcome him. He's a new student, so today will benefit you because we are starting a new topic. We finished reproduction in humans last week, and you all had a multiple choice homework exercise. I hope that you have your answers. So Shivan, you could still take part in the multiple choice just based on what you know. Even if you don't know, you can still try your hand at the questions. Now I just have on my screen, I'm actually recording because Janice mentioned that she's running a bit late. I actually have on my screen a little anniversary. I'm sure that you all would have heard that, it makes it 3 years since the COVID-19 virus was declared a pandemic. At that point in time, you were probably in Form 3, or some of you probably in Form 2. I hope I'm saying that right. And that was the time that you had to soon transition into online learning. That was a whole new journey for you. A lot of schools took a little longer than others to switch to the online mode, and there were a lot of challenges. As you know, my classes remain online. I find it very flexible, very convenient. Sometimes I might ask you, as a matter of fact, I want you all to put on your cameras just briefly, just so I can, see your faces. It's been a little while. Normally, we tend to have cameras off. We tend to be a little disconnected in that aspect, but we get a lot of work covered in this 2-hour session. In terms of notes sharing, it's much faster because I have the Google Classroom that is set up for you to get your notes. In terms of sharing textbooks, materials, is a lot faster than if we were to only depend on a whiteboard. If teachers just have to write notes on a board, that will it'll take a much longer time to get by topics. Whereas in online classes, because the resources can be shared quickly, you can get access to it and more time can be spent explaining the concepts, going through the theory, and you all getting enough time to answer questions in class and correct. So all in all, what I'm just trying to say is, with the whole online learning, it has been very beneficial. All right, I just wanted you all to share a little about, 3 years ago, tell me your feelings at that point in time. What form were you in? What was going through your mind at that point in time? Let's hear some little feedback. Okay, you all got quiet. So let me call on names. Maybe that will make it a little more interesting. Alyssa, tell me what form were you in? What occurred 3 years ago? Let's hear.
Form two. Form two.
Did
When
your
COVID.
school switch online that very month, or did it take some time?
Sometime.
Okay. Jaden?
The school was going to come back.
Louder, please.
I said that I was in Form 2, and that what that school was going to reopen in the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks
I
it
wasn't
took.
expecting,
Okay.
yeah, I wasn't expecting it to last that long.
Yeah. Everyone thought it was just a little, short stint where you get a little free time and then back to school, but it lasted and it's still going on, but in terms of all of the things that they had to lock down and hold, everything is, life continues. A lot of things has continued as normal. Some places still have that work at home. Some places still implement masks and all of these things, but it was such a transition. What about you, Tristan?
Miss, 3 years ago, I was in Form 2, and it took it took it took Fatima a long time, actually, a pretty long time
Oh, okay.
to get back to regular online school. I think it was like at the start of Form 3, because I remember those 2 months of
Mm-hmm.
first 2 months of quarantine. It was just Google Classroom and a couple of assignments we were doing daily, and it wasn't that much. I think we only really started proper online school in like form 3 term 1, because like they had
Wow.
organized it over vacation. Yeah.
Okay, and a lot of schools too, a lot of people some of them didn't even went online. Some of them got packages that they had to collect in school. Hard copy notes and hard copy assignments that they had to come to school to collect and then go back home to complete. Um, who else I didn't hear from? Keenan? Keenan, I'm not hearing you at all. All right, so now let's jump to Shivan while Keenan figure out his mic situation. Maybe I'll check the chat to see if any messages are coming in. All right, Shivan, you just want to share your experience 3 years ago, very briefly.
I suggest took a little while to get
Okay.
the online.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, and I hope within that 3 years you all learned, to be a little more interactive online, unmute yourselves. Feel free to unmute yourselves. I don't have it stringent where I'm only the speaker and I'm only the presenter. Sometimes it takes a while for me to look at the chat, so that is why I prefer you all to unmute yourselves and speak freely. Of course, don't do it while I'm explaining and in the presentation. Then you just you just bolt in just like that. Of course not. But if you have questions, this is the place where you ask, and don't feel ashamed, don't feel scared. All of us are here. It's a learning environment. It's at your home, it's at your fingertips, and make the most out of it. All right? So I just wanted to start with our multiple choice. Now I just wanted to verify with Shivan if he got access to my Google Classroom. Let me check and see. Because that is where you're going to get all of the notes, assignments, and many more. Right, so the rest of you should be getting your reproduction MCQ answers out and get ready to speak. I want you all to read the questions. So let me double check who is in the class. Right, so I have sent you an invitation. If you look at the screen, you need to accept it so that you can get access to everything here. All right, so make sure you accept it, and if you are having problems, let me know, please, so I can resend. The email address that I entered, is it correct?
Yes, miss.
Okay, so go to your inbox and make sure. Go to your inbox and make sure you have the invitation. You accept the invitation. So, all right. So let's jump into reproduction. Now, I just wanted to keep you all updated on where we have reached so far in terms of topics and when we're going to finish and all of these things. So we just have a few more topics. Now, even though Shivan, you've started with us in term 2, the ending of term 2, the syllabus will continue when our Form 5s go into exams. I'm going to continue the syllabus. So even though I've taught certain topics already, I will revisit them. Right now we have finished reproduction in plants and animals. So we finished number 17. I jumped 16. So today I'm going to do 2 types of cell division, which is number 14 and 16. I'm going to cover mitosis and I'm going to cover meiosis. All right, it will take me 2 classes to finish 18 and 19, genetics and continuity. So let's say, now I do continue during Easter vacation, by the way. We don't go on vacation. We are in exam mode, so we continue. So I will continue genetics, continuity and variation. Natural and artificial selection will take me 1 class. Genetic engineering is 1 class. Diseases might be about 2 classes. Soils is 1 class. So we will be finished by the end of April. And then we'll have some classes where we are devoting to the recent past papers. I want you all to sit down and do full past papers and we correct in class. That's basically the plan from now till May. All right, so I hope if you all have any questions, feel free to ask. So let's jump into reproduction MCQs. Actually, let me open it in my files. There's no need to print out notes. If you are keeping up and jotting down the notes in your book, simplifying the notes and keeping up to date, there's no need to print notes. If you feel as though you need to and you are able to, that's not a problem. But do remember, you can't put a lot of these slides in one page, like 4 slides per page, to cut down on the amount of ink, and also you can remove backgrounds, take off color and all of these things. All right, so reproduction, let's go. So I will allow each person to read a question and give their answer. So let's see. Let me see. Okay, I'll go with Alyssa. We'll go in the order with Alyssa, Jaden, Keenan, Shivan, and then Tristan. I'll go in that order that I have here. All right, so number 1, Alyssa.
Which of the following is most important advantage of sexual reproduction over the asexual reproduction? A. Embryos are protected during their early stages of growth. B. It produces variation among offsprings. C. It ensures survival of the species. D. It produces offspring in a shorter period of time. Amos?
Okay, so now these questions are very tricky. Anytime you see something like most important, that means it have answers here that are important, but you have to choose the one that is most important. So it is actually true that, okay, embryos are protected during the early stages of growth. Now, in terms of sexual reproduction, asexual reproduction, remember we learned the embryo is the so after you have the sperm cell fusing with the egg cell, you have a zygote that is formed. Then comes the embryo stage, and the embryo tends to implant itself in the lining of the uterus. And then it grows into a fetus. So when they say embryos are protected during the early stages of growth, I mean, it's a true statement, but is it an advantage in sexual reproduction? That is the question you have to ask yourself. What is the most important one? Now, when you look at B and C, those are also very important. And then when you look at D, it produces more offspring in a shorter time. That has nothing to do with sexual reproduction, because sexual reproduction actually takes a while. So the one that is totally wrong would have been D. The one that is not pertaining to the question would have been A. Then you are left with B and C, which tends, you ask yourself which one between the two is most important. So yes, it's true. Sexual reproduction produces variation among offspring, because you are going to have the unique combination of genes from your mother and your father creating an offspring, which is you. So you have differences in genes that were obtained from your parents. And then you have part C, which is it ensures survival of the species. Now, once you have variation, it is going to allow species to survive. But not all the time is sexual reproduction an advantage where it ensures, not all the time it will ensure survival of the species. So the most important one here is actually B. And I'm showing you all how to work out your multiple choice. It's not a guess, it's not a, you know, you need to really use your background knowledge on the topic and really cross out the ones that are not appropriate, and then you are left with two that is somewhat close and somewhat the answer, and then you battle the two. That is the whole point with multiple choice. And this booklet that I got, multiple choice questions, it's a little more tricky than what you see in exams. All right, but it's a really good practice. Right, how many people got B correct? Jaden, Keenan, okay. All right, so Jaden, number 2.
Asexual reproduction. 1 is conservative. 2 can lead to overcrowding. 3 enables species to adapt to changing environmental conditions. Yes, I had B, 1 and 2 only.
All right, so asexual reproduction involves one parent, and the offspring that is being produced is an identical copy of the parent. So it tends to be, because it's only in unicellular organisms and some plants, it tends to have a faster rate. The reproduction rate is faster. So more offspring are being produced at a faster time, and that can lead to overcrowding. So this is definitely a valid point too. Now we are looking at the options, and we know that the answer must have 2. Now when you see the word conservative, you're thinking like, what is conservative, right? So you're probably asking yourself what conservative mean. And conservative mean that basically you are reproducing in you're conserving the species, like you're protecting them, and you're maintaining the number of the species in the environment. All right, and then when you look at part 3, you're seeing enable species to adapt. Asexual never have species adapting, because you only have a clone of the parent that is produced. So there's no way the offspring from asexual can adapt. So 3 is totally off, and you know for a fact that the options here, 3 is totally off. You are left with 1 and 2. You're probably not sure about one, but you're sure about two. So therefore, you have to look at the options carefully, and you're seeing that they have three and C and D, so you know those are out, and that leaves you with B. So let's say you have a question in multiple choice. You for a fact know one of the options are correct. Sometimes you tend to see questions in this manner. You have a variety of statements and you have to see which one correct. And then it might have one with a word you probably don't understand the meaning. You have to look at your options and your combinations and narrow it down, and you can still figure it out without knowing the meaning of conservative. All right, I hope you follow that tip. All right, number 3. By the way, the answer was B. Sorry, number 2, B. Keenan, number 3.
Refer to the following diagram of the female reproductive system. Match each item below with one of the options in the diagram. Mister, do you hear me?
No, I didn't hear the answer.
A is the answer, miss.
Okay, fertilization. And what is that structure called? What is the name of A?
The fallopian tube.
Very good. Fallopian tube, also known as the oviduct, right? And I need you all to keep up and keep sharp. So sometime I will throw a question at you for you to think. Fertilization occurs at the fallopian tube. B will be the ovary. You should be able to label everything here by now. All right, number 4. Let's move to Tristan.
Miss, for number 4, I put A.
Read the question.
Oh, sorry. Items 3 to 4 refers to the following diagram of the female reproductive system. Match each item below with one of the options in the diagram. Each option may be used once, more than once, or not at all. And number 4 is asking for which one has thin walls lined with cilia, and I put A, which is the fallopian tubes, miss.
Cilia is, if you all recall, cilia is something you find in the respiratory tract as well. Now, the fallopian tube has tiny hair-like structures. And anyone remembers what is the purpose of having cilia in that fallopian tube?
This will help the egg move.
To move the egg, miss.
Move the egg, yes. So it sweeps, that hair-like structure sweeps the egg down the fallopian tube. So eventually the sperm can swim and fertilize the egg. Very good. All right, number 5. Shivan, you want to try this one? Shivan, just unmute yourself, read the question. I forgot to ask you what topic you read in school.
This production of the mature ova.
Okay. What topic did you reach in school?
Yes, we still doing plants at the
Plants.
yeah, miss.
Okay, so you didn't reach reproduction. All right. If you didn't reach reproduction, no problem. Okay, the functions of the ovaries in humans includes, so ovaries, you have a lot of things happening in the ovary, in the female, right? You have production of mature ova, secretion of progesterone, secretion of estrogen. Now remember, the ovary contains sex hormones, which are estrogen and progesterone. They are just released at different times. Estrogen tends to release right after menstruation. So let's say day 6. At day 6, estrogen is released. Progesterone, on the other hand, is released at day 15, right after ovulation. And you also have primary follicles in the ovary, which is like baby eggs, but each month, one egg has to mature. So in this answer, it would have been all of them, D. Everything here is happening is a function of the ovary. All right, number 6. Back with Alyssa.
Item 6 refers to the following diagram of the male reproductive system. Which of the following does not contribute to the production of semen?
I didn't get the letter. Can
Miss, you
someone...
heard me?
What was the letter she said? I felt like I barely hear
I
it.
didn't hear either, miss.
I think she said A. So A is the bladder. B will be the seminal vesicle. C is the prostate gland. D is the testes. The only thing here that does not contribute to the production of semen is definitely the bladder. Bladder, what does the bladder contain?
Urine.
Urine, right? So urine is not part of semen. And now notice, is Ryan here? Ryan not here? Let me just send him a message quickly. Some people have to monitor this. Okay, back with Jaden. Go ahead, number 7.
Which of the following correctly summarizes the pathway along which sperm travels? E. Testis to the sperm duct to the prostate gland to the urethra. B. Testis, epididymis, sperm duct, urethra. C. Epididymis, sperm duct, prostate gland, urethra. D. Testes, epididymis, sperm duct, urethra. Miss, I have D.
D, testes, then the epididymis, which is the coil tube, then the sperm duct, which is the vas deferens, and then last but not least, urethra. And look at the spelling, eh? So yes, D is correct. Number 8, Keenan.
The following events take place in an ovary during one complete menstrual cycle. P. A corpus luteum develops. Q. An immature ovum undergoes meiosis. R. Ovulation. S. A Graafian follicle develops. In which order would these events occur? I chose B, miss.
So you said the Graafian follicle develops, then the immature ovum undergoes meiosis, then corpus luteum develops, then R, ovulation. Something, all right, let's go through that. I find that we didn't really press on that last time. So let me go through ovary, primary follicle. I want to get a nice diagram to show you. I know there's one in the Collins, but let's see if I find one quicker here. We don't want anything to advance at the same time. Okay, this one is okay. Okay, so basically, this is the ovary. Let me see. Yeah, I'll use this one. This is the ovary, right? Each month you have a primary follicle. Ignore the other names like andra. We learn primary follicle. We have a little egg that has to mature. Now, thanks to FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, it is going to increase in size and it's going to grow a little sac, which is called the Graafian follicle. It grows into a little sac, that egg. So when it reaches the Graafian follicle stage, the egg, which is now matured, will leave. So it bursts out of the sac and it leaves the ovary to go into the fallopian tube. That is ovulation. So first you have primary follicle, and then it grows into a Graafian follicle. Then the egg leaves, which is ovulation. Then you have corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is the yolk or the yellow part of this Graafian follicle here. Let me see if I can show you the corpus. So corpus luteum, this one could work. I've seen some there. So you have primary follicle, it growing, getting larger, it matures into a sac. Then it leaves the sac, which is ovulation. Then you have the sac that contains the yellow body, which is corpus luteum. So let's find that order in the options. Let's see. Back to the question. So we have, all right, so now that you know the order there, try again, please. Graafian follicle. Okay, we had to look at this question. The following events take place in an ovary during one complete menstrual cycle. So if it is you have Q, look at Q. An immature ovum. When I say immature, it means that it wasn't developed. It's not mature yet. So an immature ovum undergoes meiosis. Won't you put this first? Q.
We're still a bit confused about meiosis.
Right, well now we are going to look at meiosis today, but meiosis means that okay, let's go back to the figure here. So you see how you have 1, 2, 3 primary follicle. Meiosis means that this egg is going to increase, is going to multiply or divide, which is going to create this little sac here. So meiosis is when cells divide, and meiosis occurs in gametes, which is the sex cells. So whenever you have an ovum dividing, you call it meiosis. So that is why it should have been first. This step is first, meiosis. Then you have graft. So when it's dividing and dividing, it forms a sac, a little sac where the egg is housed in, which is called the Graafian follicle, which is this larger structure here, mature follicle. All right, and then you have ovulation, because since it matured, it's time to leave the follicle, so it leaves. So then you have ovulation. And what after ovulation, you're just left with the yellow part of the follicle, or the sac. Let me call it the Graafian sac or the Graafian follicle. You have the yolk. That is the corpus luteum. So that's the order that you should have. So it's supposed to be Q, then S, then R, and P. Right? So the answer is D there. Hope it is clearer. Is it clearer now?
Yes, miss.
Okay. Number 9. Tristan. Not hearing Tristan.
Sorry, miss, sorry. Just now. The diagram below shows how the uterus lining changes during the menstrual cycle. Which point indicates the state of the uterus lining when ovulation will be most likely to occur? A, miss.
Now read it there. When ovulation would be most likely to occur. Remember, it had a particular day you learned?
Yes, miss.
What day?
Miss, I can't remember right now.
Where your slides? Where your notes?
I have them on my computer, miss. Well, in my book as well.
Menstrual cycle have a lot of information. I want to sit down with that slide, go through it a couple times. Let me pull it up again so you can look at this image here. So here it is. We have day 1 to 28. What day is? Well, they ain't really telling you what day, but let me see. Yes, this one telling you. Look at this look at this figure. Tell me what day is ovulation here.
Day 14, miss.
Right, so day 14 is when the egg is released. So when you look at the question, they ask you what point indicates the state of the uterus lining when ovulation would be the most likely to occur? Now here you have the thickness of the uterus lining, but at day 14 you have to remember is when the egg is ready. So it has left the ovary, it's waiting for a sperm cell. So the lining would have been thick at C. You see how the line went up, indicating that the uterus lining is thick. So that already, you don't know ovulation is day 14, so you don't know the answer is C. Alright, I will send these figures for you so it can assist you all. This one is good because it's showing FSH, hormone, showing estrogen, progesterone, LH. So this is a nice one to send you. Alright. And you all seeing this is the uterus lining, it breaking down and then repairing itself. So it increasing in its thickness here. All of this is blood tissue. So this is a nice figure. Alright. Back to the questions. We have a lot. Ooh. Number 10. Right, so from this point, you just read the question and just give your answer. You don't have to read the options. So Shiva, number 10.
Miss, who has answer this question? Do I?
It's Shiva, and I'm not hearing him at all. Yeah.
C, miss.
Okay, he said C. Yeah, internet I feel, produced by the pituitary gland at the beginning of the menstrual cycle. That's true. Follicle stimulating hormone, FSH. FSH and LH is released from the pituitary gland. Estrogen and progesterone, they are in the ovary. So remember those. Right, Alyssa now, 11.
Stimulates the uterus lining to thicken after menstruation.
What's the answer?
Emo?
It take a little while there. So the thickening of the uterus lining right after menstruation is estrogen. Right? So it repairs the uterus lining. Progesterone is the one that maintains the thickness, which is after ovulation. Right? You have to know your timing and all of these things. Yeah, A is the answer. 12, Jaden.
The fusion of sperm and ovum to form a zygote is known as fertilization.
D, correct. Keenan.
The following events take place between conception and birth. T. The ammonion bursts. U. The embryo sinks into the uterus lining. V. The cervix dilates. W. The placenta develops. C. Miss.
Okay. All right. So the word conception means that is the point at which fertilization started. So as soon as the sperm cell fuses with the nucleus of the sperm cell fuses with the nucleus of the egg cell, you call that conception. So it's like another way of saying fertilization, in other words. Right? And then from that point, you have to talk about the events from there to birth. So first, you have the now between U and V, look at it. Embryo sinks into the uterus lining, and then you have placenta develop. Now first, the embryo have to implant itself in the uterus lining. Then the lining gets thicker and thicker, forming the placenta. So it's U and then W, and then you have, so U and then W. Now remember these steps. The amnion is that little sac that contains amniotic fluid, which is where the fetus will be inside. So the amnion is what they call the water bag. You know, when they say the water bag bursts. This will burst, and then it takes a while for the cervix to become fully dilated. So yes, the amnion bursts before cervix become dilated. So it's, what letters are said there? We have U, W, T, V, B. B is the answer. Alright, Tristan.
Which of the following incorrectly matches the structure named with its function in a developing human fetus? C. The umbilical artery and the function transports food to the fetus.
Right, incorrectly matches, right? So incorrectly, let's look at it very carefully. The same placenta exchanges oxygen and carbon dioxide between, that is true. Umbilical vein transports oxygen to the fetus, that is true. And this was the exception. The artery in this case is the one that is wait, hold on. Umbilical artery transports food to the fetus. Let's go back to that figure. I want to just double check something here. Right, sometimes you have to go back to your notes just to verify what is taking place, reproduction in animals. So far I agree with you, but I want to double check. Right, so I just wanted to make sure between umbilical vein and umbilical artery. Umbilical artery carries dissolved carbon dioxide and other waste from the embryo. It doesn't carry food, it's the vein that is carry food, so that is the false. That one is incorrect. So let's go back. Amniotic fluid supports and that's true. So the false one is C. This one is incorrect. It's supposed to be transports carbon dioxide and waste. Vein is the one that transport oxygen, carries dissolved food and oxygen, right? So you see how these little notes, it's very important to comb through your notes because that's where you find your answers and that's what you have to remember. All right, very good. 15, Shivan.
Venus.
Okay, progesterone secreted by the placenta during pregnancy. One inhibits ovulation during pregnancy. Well, first to begin, okay, progesterone secreted by the placenta maintains a thick, it's definitely 2, maintains a thickened uterus lining, not 3, or is it, let's go back and let's verify that. Birth process. So secretion of progesterone by the placenta is reduced. So progesterone has nothing to do with the birth process. So when they say initiate labor, they're talking about the birth process, right? When they say labor is during birth. So it's not 3, but it is 2. Inhibits ovulation during pregnancy. Well, if you look at the options, the only other one is 1 and 2. So yeah, that's true. It does inhibit ovulation during pregnancy. Okay. B is actually correct. Very good. 16, Alyssa.
Which of the following birth control methods makes use of the hormones to prevent pregnancy from occurring? B. Contraceptive pills.
Yes, the contraceptive pill contains hormones where it actually, so it's artificial hormones that is going to lower your natural hormones such as estrogen, is going to lower FSH, is going to lower particular hormones to prevent the egg from either being released or the uterus lining from building. So yeah, it contains hormones, contraceptive pills. All right. Jaden.
The main advantage of using condoms as contraceptive devices over other contraceptives is that they protect against sexually transmitted infections.
Yes, condoms is the only one that is going to protect against STDs. All right, that's a barrier method. It might not be 100% effective, but that's the only one that is preventing any kind of sexually transmitted virus from being transmitted to the uninfected individual. All right, next person, Keenan.
Which of the following statements is incorrect? A. The spread of HIV or AIDS can be controlled by setting up immunization programs. B. HIV or AIDS is caused by a virus. C. Gonorrhea is a bacterial infection. D. Gonorrhea can be treated by using antibiotics. B. I chose B, miss.
Well, we have not started diseases just yet. So I will hold up on this, but I will still tell you the answer. If I'm seeing more disease question, I'll stop. Yeah, it have more disease questions to go. But the answer for this, which one is incorrect? HIV is a virus that leads to AIDS. So when they say it is caused by a virus, they're true. Gonorrhea is a bacterial infection. That is also true. Gonorrhea can be treated by using antibiotics. Yeah, once it's a bacteria, you could use antibiotics to treat it. But in terms of the spread of HIV or AIDS can be controlled by setting up immunization. There's no immunization for, or there's no vaccine, or there's no shot to take to control the spread of AIDS or HIV. So A would have been the only one that is incorrect. But don't worry, we have the whole of diseases to look at, which is something very, very interesting. All right, now we have reproduction part 2, which is based on plants, but I will pause because I want you all to go on a short break, and then when you return, I would like to teach mitosis and meiosis. All right, and then we'll correct this plant one. Is that okay with you?
Okay, miss.
So we can return at 2, we'll return at 2 p.m. Okay, we can continue. I hope that you are back. Right, I gave you all an extra 5 minutes here. Right, Alyssa,
Present.
Jaden,
Present.
Tristan,
Present.
Keenan,
Present.
and Shivan.
Present.
All right, so we are going to start our new topic. We are going to look at mitosis. Now, this was posted on the Google Classroom, so that now the whole point in having the access to the notes is for you to go through it and not just have it on your computer to make it look, like you have all these notes. You have to use your notes. So if it means that you have to rewrite it, you have to print it and highlight and read through, make summarized notes, so be it. You have to use it. All right, so that's all part of this class as well. So mitosis is what you call a type of cell division. Your cells in your body needs to divide because you are an organism that, first to begin, when you were conceived, the point at which conception took place, you would have been the sperm cell meeting the egg cell, which form later on into a zygote. So you would have been a ball of cells in your initial stages of life, and gradually you became this multicellular organism, this human, which consists of millions of cells. So in order for you to grow in size, mitosis was the process that facilitated that. In order for you to develop organs, mitosis was involved in that process. So mitosis not only helps to develop organs and to allow you to grow, but it also divides to replace cells that can become damaged. Throughout your life, you're going to have cells that are damaged, going to be destroyed in the body, damaged, so it have to be replaced. You're also, so what we're going to look at is the process of mitosis, the importance of mitosis, or the significance of the mitosis process, the role of mitosis in asexual reproduction. Now we just finished reproduction, but we have to know how is mitosis involved in asexual. And also, we are going to explain why asexual reproduction gives rise to genetically identical offspring. So that's basically what we are covering today. Now, mitosis is a type of cell division that results in the formation of two daughter cells. So these are very important points. First, you have a parent cell that is going to divide and form a daughter cell. So the result of mitosis is two daughter cells, and mitosis occurs in all body cells. So all your cells except the formation of gametes. Gametes are your sex cells, which you learned already. You have sperm cell, and then, well, males have sperm cell, females have egg cells. Mitosis does not occur in those cells. They occur in the other body cells. So, for instance, nerve cells, your bone cells, your heart cells, your skin cells, they divide by mitosis. During mitosis, you're going to have two genetically identical cells that are formed. So when I say genetically identical, it means it contains the same number of chromosomes as your parent. All right? Each cell contains a diploid number. Diploid means it has two sets of chromosomes. All cells produced by mitosis from a single parent cell are collectively called a clone. So there's a lot of information here. And I wanted to show you a figure first before we go into that. Let me bring up a figure for you. Right, just give me a few minutes so I can get it. Okay, so I want to bring your attention to this figure. Let me zoom in a little bit. Right. So mitosis is something that happens in your body cells. So let's look at the liver cell. Now the cell that is going to divide, you call it a parent cell. So this cell is going to split into two, making a copy, and you're going to have two that are going to form, you call it daughter cells. So daughter cells are formed from parent cells. So in the parent cell, you're going to have 46 chromosomes. Now cells contains nucleus. Nucleus contains genetic information. So the genetic information inside of the cells is what you call chromosomes. So remember when you looked at cells, you learned it contains a nucleus, right? This is the nucleus. We are actually looking at inside of the nucleus. So inside of here, you have 46 chromosomes. Just let me show you how it looks. Let me see if I can get a figure. Right. So you won't get a nice figure with, they're not going to draw 46 chromosomes inside of that circle because it's going to be very, very tiny to see. But basically you have 46. Let me see if I can get this big. Open image, right? Okay, not as big, but you get the drift. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So basically it's basically 23 pairs. So you notice it's in twos. Right? You have number one, you have a pair. A pair means two. But if you were to count each item separately, you're going to have 46 chromosomes, which is the same as saying 23 pairs. All right, so you have in your parent cell, each body cell, not just liver cell, but each of your body cells, you have 46 chromosomes inside of the nucleus. So what is going to happen is the chromosomes are going to make copies of themselves so that it can be transferred to the daughter cells. And the daughter cell, each daughter cell is going to contain the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. All right, so basically you're going to have 46 chromosomes in the daughter cells and same number. Now anytime you see 46 chromosome, it's the same as saying 23 pairs. All right, and 23 pairs is what you call a diploid number because it has two sets of chromosomes. Two sets of chromosomes means one set comes from your father, 23 chromosomes come from your father, 23 chromosomes come from your mother. I want to get a larger one so you could see. I'll work with this. I'll try to work with this one here. I find all of them looking small. All right, I'll look at this one. So, okay, you have chromosomes are arranged in pairs as you are seeing here. One of it you inherit from your mother, the other one you inherit from your father. So what it's trying to say is you have 46 individual chromosomes in total, but half of it comes from your mother, which is 23, and half of it comes from your father, which is 23. So that is what you call a diploid number of chromosomes. Diploid, Di, means 2. So 2N means 2 sets of chromosomes. So each cell that is being divided by mitosis is going to have the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell, which is 46 chromosomes. Does that make sense to you all?
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
All right. Now we call the daughter cell a clone of the parent cell because it is the identical copy of the parent cell. Now, why is mitosis so important is because, one, it ensures that each daughter cell has the same number and type of chromosomes as the parent cell. Anytime your body has to replace damaged cells, it have to be the identical copy of the damaged one. You can't have something that's going to be different. So if you're replacing a skin cell, it has to look identical. So it's going to make the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. So it's important that the daughter cell has the same number and type of chromosomes to replace your damaged or old cells. Number 2, it ensures that each daughter cell has an identical combination of genes. Because now you are learning some new terms, genes, chromosomes. Genes are codes that basically outline the entire body. Genes is something that determine who you are. Just like how you have computer codes, or like a program is made up of computer, like actual sequences, codes, or what have you. Your body is made up of codes, but we call it genes. So in other words, we have a gene that is controlling our skin color. We have a gene that is controlling our hair texture. Everything about us is controlled by a gene. So if it is you are making a copy of a parent cell, which is the daughter cell, it have to resemble the parent cell. So it have to have the same genes. All right. And third importance, it is a method by which all cells of a multicellular organism are formed. So in order for us to grow, mitosis was something that had to take place to create many cells in your body. And in order for us to repair damaged tissues, you need to have new cells being reproduced or new cells being formed to replace the old ones. All right, that's all part of life, and it's something that takes place throughout your lifetime. Mitosis is something that is ongoing in your body. All right, but it slows down when you when you enter the old age. Mitosis is something that will slow down because you are not repairing in that sense. You are actually getting older and weaker. So cells in your body are not going to be replaced at that phase of your life. All right, and number 4, it is the method by which organisms reproduce asexually, forming offspring that are identical to each other and to the parent. So since we looked at asexual, we learned that asexual is one parent. So there are many organisms that do not require a mate. They don't need any kind of gametes. They don't need any sex cells in their body, but they can reproduce. So it's basically mitosis that is happening to create a copy which is identical to themselves. All right, so these are 4 very important points that you should know, right? If they ever ask you to explain some importance of mitosis. Now we have to know the actual process. So we have it step by step. It involves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps. All right, and the first step always begins with interphase. All right, so what you are seeing a cell, an animal cell here. Now mitosis occurs in animals, it occurs in plants as well. And also it occurs in unicellular organisms. But in this diagram, we are seeing a cell. We are seeing, what we are focusing on is the nucleus. So we're looking at the circle here. So what you are seeing is little thread-like structures, which is called chromatin threads. These structures contain your genes or your codes that determine who you are. So you have millions of cells in your body and they all contain a nucleus which contains these thread-like material. So these thread-like material has to actually condense and get thicker in appearance. So it looks like two bands. Whenever it's in this kind of shape, this kind of X shape, it is now called a chromosome. All right, so this is chromatin, this one is chromosome. So interphase is the stage when the cell is not dividing. The chromosomes are not visible. They exist as long, thin strands called chromatin threads. But in prophase, you see the chromosomes shorten, thicken, duplicate themselves and become visible. Who can tell me what is the meaning of the word duplicate?
To make a copy of itself.
To make a copy of itself. Duplicate means to replicate. It means to basically make a copy, right? So the chromosome is going to make a copy of itself, as you see in here. Then they become visible. So it's no longer a thread. You tend to see it in a kind of X shape. And it consists of two identical chromatids. So one chromosome is made up of two chromatids. So you have, if we were to cut this in half, then you would see it's what you call a chromatid. So you have two chromatids that are joined by the centromere, which is the center. That is a chromosome structure now. All right, and then the centrioles are these little items that are in the cell membrane. You tend to see it like a circle. They tend to go apart. Before it was close together, but now they're separating from each other and they are forming something which is called spindle fibers. Spindle fibers are little thread-like structures and you will notice it's growing from the centriole and it's moving away from each other. Right, so there's important terms. You're seeing centromere, you're seeing centriole, you're seeing chromatid, then you see chromatin. So there's a lot of terms you need to familiarize yourself with. After prophase comes metaphase. Metaphase are a lot of things happening. What is the difference? What are some differences that you notice from prophase to metaphase? What you're seeing that is different?
There's no longer a nuclear membrane.
Very good.
All lined up straight in a line.
Right. So you are no longer seeing the circle. The nucleus or the nuclear membrane has disintegrated because you need this space, you need this whole area, because what is going to happen? The chromosomes are going to align themselves along the equator. Now these chromosomes are being held by the spindle fiber and it attaches itself to the centromere. That is because the cell has to now, it is preparing to divide. So you have to have the same number of chromosomes in the two cells. So that is why they are aligning themselves along the equator of the cell. So after metaphase comes anaphase. Here you are seeing the chromosome has split into half. Whenever it's split into two parts, you call it a chromatid now. So it splits at the centromere region and now you have the chromatids being pulled to the opposite poles of the cell. So this half going on the top, this half going towards the bottom. Right, and they're dividing, so it has divided, the chromosome has split, and now you have the chromatids that has moved to the opposite poles. The spindle fibers are going, they are no longer needed, so they are going to disintegrate. You also notice the cells starting to divide. So you see the center of the cell has constricted. It gets narrow because it's going to split into two. So when it actually splits, you call this stage cytokinesis. When it is preparing to split, you call it telophase. Alright, and cytokinesis, you have two daughter cells, and those chromatids then, so your nucleus or your nuclear membrane reforms, and it houses the chromatids here. And you're going to have the chromatids are going to eventually turn back into this thread-like material that you notice, because that is how it's naturally found in the cell. It doesn't look like these bands. All right. So cytokinesis involves a nuclear membrane forming around each group of chromosome. The cell divides, forming two identical daughter cells. So it's identical in the sense that it contains the same number of chromosomes and the same genes that are on the chromosome. All right. And the chromosomes then become long and thin, so they are no longer visible. So eventually they're going to turn into chromatin. But this is how you see it in cytokinesis. So all of these steps, you have to know what is taking place in order. You have to know exactly the terms like centriole, chromatin, chromosome, chromatid, right? You have to be able to identify them. And that is mitosis. That is the steps of, or the process of mitosis. All right, what questions, any questions you have with any of these steps? Anything you're unclear about?
Yes, miss. So in the prophase, there's 4 pairs of chromosomes, miss.
Uh-huh.
But in the anaphase, the pairs split up, and one daughter cell has 4 chromosomes and the other one have 4 chromosomes. But I thought they're supposed to equal the amount in the parent cell.
Right, now this is a simple diagram. Normally it's supposed to be 46 chromosomes, but for simplicity's sake, they're just showing you 4 in this diagram, which is just as a simplified diagram. They're not going to have all 46 and then split into 23. But in humans, it's supposed to be 46, meaning 23 from the father, 23 from the mother. Then it divides, so it duplicates, meaning it made a copy of itself, so that it can have equal number in both daughter cells. Remember, it's 2 daughter cells. So anytime you are seeing just 4, it's just a simple diagram to represent it. And what you notice, you're seeing blue and you're seeing red, that is just to denote that, okay, one set of chromosomes come from the mother, one set of chromosomes come from the father. So let's say the blue was from the father, the red is from the mother, right? And then you see the chromosomes split into chromatids. They go to opposite poles, so it can then reform into the chromosome structure, but they have the equal number as the parent cell. Don't get confused by how much you see in here. It is just a diagram to learn. All right, let's look at a video just so that you can kind of get a better idea of this process. All right, let me play this for you. Right, so if you're not hearing, do tell me, but let's follow these steps and understand these steps.
We looked at the general process of mitosis in this video. In this video, we are going to add in some extra detail, including the names of the key stages.
Miss, it is very
You may
quiet.
want to watch this video first.
It's soft.
Yes, miss.
All right, thanks for telling me.
We looked at the general process of mitosis in this video. In this video, we are going to add in some extra detail, including the names of the key stages. You may want to watch this video first to refresh your memory of how mitosis works. You should already know that mitosis is the process of cell division that produces identical copies of cells and is involved in growth, cell repair, and asexual reproduction. When cells divide by mitosis, the number of cells increases, and hence the organism grows. Different organisms have different numbers of chromosomes. To keep it simple, we are just going to look at what happens to one pair of chromosomes during cell division. Before we start, just a quick reminder that a chromosome is made up of two chromatids, and one from the mother and one from the
I just wanted to pause there, right? Now, for simplicity's sake, he's just using one pair, right? He's just looking at one chromosome, which consists of two chromatids. One comes from the mother, one comes from the father, just so that you have an idea. But in reality, let me just go back a little bit. It's really 46 chromosomes, but in diagrams, we are not going to draw all 46. For simplicity's sake, you're just going to see probably four of us. In this case, he's using one pair, right? So I hope it makes sense. Let's look at the steps now.
and one from the mother and one from the father. So mitosis, with our special sciencey names, add in, to this day, I just remember IPMAN, to remember which order the stages go in. Then just tag cytokinesis into the end. Interphase, the chromosomes duplicate and become two identical chromatids, joined at the centromere. So in humans, it has gone from the original 46 to 92. In prophase, in the nucleus, the chromosomes condense, and in the cytoplasm, spindle fibers form. Metaphase, the nuclear membrane breaks apart. The spindle fibers attach to the chromosomes, and the chromosomes line up at the equator of the cell. Anaphase, the spindle fibers shorten and the centromere divides, so that each chromosome becomes two separate chromatids. Telophase, the nuclear membrane forms around each set of chromosomes. Chromosomes spread back out in their new nucleus and the spindle fibers break down. In humans, each nucleus has the normal 46 chromosomes again. Cytokinesis. The cell membrane pinches into two separate sets of chromatids into two identical daughter cells with the same number of chromosomes as the parent. So 46 or 23 pairs in humans. So there we have how cells divide by mitosis to form two new identical cells with the special IPMAT, sciencey words included.
Okay, so I just want to go back a little bit. Now, that's a nice way to remember the steps, if math. So you can remember the order of the stages because that's very important. Sometimes they ask you to put the order. You see it in multiple choice. They give you a set of figures and you have to match the correct order. So he came up with a little acronym. Now I know you all love maths, and I just wanted to go back to what he said. Now, remember, each cell contains 46 chromosomes. In order for mitosis to take place, the chromosomes have to duplicate. Duplicate means it makes a copy. All right? So, in other words, it's going to be 92 chromosomes that have to be formed. So, 40, how did he get 92? Let me hear you.
He added 46 chromosomes to another 46, miss.
Very good. So basically, initially, the parent cell has 46 chromosomes, but in order to supply the daughter cell at the end with the same 46, it needed to replicate. Replicate meaning make a copy of the chromosomes. So 46 plus 46 giving you 92 chromosome. And that is how the parent cell is now able to transfer equal number of chromosomes to the daughter cell in the end, because it have to maintain that 46. And again, you're not going to see any figure in exams with 46 of these. You're going to see a basic outline of chromosomes, right? They're not going to put 46 for you to see, but they will show you like a simple diagram, but you have to understand what is taking place in each phase. I do hope it's clearer. Perhaps I can show you another diagram. I'll find something and show you. Let me see, mitosis. This is how it actually looks under a microscope. If you were to look at a real cell that is dividing, this is how it will be viewed. All right, now we tend to use basic figures. Let me see if I find a good one. This is a good one. The only thing is open. Okay, can you all see these stages here?
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
Which stage is missing?
Cytokinesis.
Cytokinesis. And sometimes in exams they might miss out a stage. Sometimes they might miss out the first one, because the first one is just how a cell normally, this is how the chromosomes appear. So basically, you always remember IPMAT and remember cytokinesis in the end. Initially, your cell is going to have 46 chromosomes, which is, you don't see 46 structures, but you see it as threads. You call it chromatin threads. At this point in time, your centriole would have been situated in the cytoplasm. You would have had a nuclear membrane. So this is naturally the cell, it's not dividing here, but it's preparing to divide, so it goes into prophase. Prophase means that the nuclear membrane has disintegrated. The centrioles tend to move apart, opposite poles, because they are responsible for forming spindle fibers. The chromosomes made copies of themselves. So you're going to have the chromosomes, they basically made an exact copy of themselves, and they got thicker. So it's no longer a thread, you call it a chromosome. Chromosome now consists of two chromatids. If you were to look at it separately, it's two chromatids held by a centromere. The next step involves the chromosomes aligning itself along the equator, and they are both held by the centromere. At this point in time, it's preparing to split. So all of the copies that it made is going to single out so that it have an even number in both daughter cells. So here you are going to see spindle fibers attached to centromere, centrioles in the opposite pole. They align themselves along the equator. Then in anaphase come the splitting. So you're going to have 46 going on one, you're going to have, well in this case you're not going to see all chromosomes, but you're going to have equal number going to opposite poles, right? So you're going to have the chromosome split into chromatids, all right? And then in the last step, this is where you're going to have the cell that are going to split. So it's preparing to split, but before it split, the chromosomes are enclosed in the nucleus, so the nuclear membrane reforms, spindle fibers are broken down, centrioles return to its original position, and then cytokinesis will happen next where it divides. And then you have two daughter cells that are formed, which contain same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. That's what you need to know for mitosis. That's basically mitosis in a nutshell there, right? So this is something I urge you to draw. Draw and write out all of the stages in your books to live. I've never seen that they ask to draw all these stages, but I've seen that they brought a stage and they're asking you what's taking place in it, or they ask you to compare mitosis and meiosis. I've always seen that popping up here and there, right? So don't take this topic for granted. All right, so let's return to the presentation now. I will actually do meiosis next week because it's a lot of information to consume in one class. So we're moving on, we understand the process, we understand the stages. So just to see all the different ways mitosis is utilized. So we are going to look at different ways mitosis is being used in asexual reproduction. So asexual reproduction involves mitosis because asexual reproduction is the production or the formation of an organism from one parent. So it's basically cell division that is taking place. The offspring produced are genetically identical to each other or to the parent, and they call it clones, same thing. So say you have a parent cell, the parent cell is going to, the DNA or the chromosomes are going to make copies. Mitosis is going to take place. The copies that were made from the parent is going to be passed on to the daughter cell, and that daughter cell is going to develop into an organism that is identical to the parent. So we tend to see asexual reproduction in unicellular organisms. These are organisms that consist of only one cell. So for instance, budding is a type of asexual reproduction that takes place in yeast. Yeast is a unicellular organism because it's a fungus. So let's look at the steps here. All right, so here you have, this is a yeast cell, this is a parent cell. So that parent cell is going to form a little bud, right? The parent cell sends out, so this is a little bud formation. The bud is going to get larger in size, and that is due to mitosis. It's also going to make a copy of the nucleus. So the nucleus of the parent cell splits into two, because inside of the nucleus you would have had the chromosomes making exact copies, and then it split. So that nucleus, that new nucleus has same number of chromosomes as the first one. So it just going into the bud, it migrates into the bud, and then eventually the bud will break and separate from the parent. So this bud that was formed contains the same number of chromosomes as the parent. And if you look at it, it's identical to the parent. That is how yeast reproduces, right? By mitosis or by budding, which is a type of asexual reproduction. So I want someone to just read number 1. Tristan, can you read through budding for us?
Budding is a single cell fungus that reproduces asexually. This process occurs when the parent sends out a small outgrowth of cytoplasm called the bud. When the bud is nearly the same size as the parent cell, the nucleus of the parent cell splits into two, and one nucleus migrates into the bud. The bud then breaks off to create a new cell.
Very good. All right, so let's move on to another type of asexual reproduction. This one is called binary fission. So Janice, I heard your voice. I noticed you joined. Are you still here? Let me see.
Yes, miss.
Okay, so continue. Read binary fission. Binary fission first.
Binary fission. Unicellular organisms such as Amoeba and Bacterium reproduce asexually by splitting into two new identical organisms.
Okay, so binary fission is another method of asexual reproduction, and yes, it also involves mitosis. The only difference is it takes place in bacteria or amoeba. This is another type of unicellular organism called a paramecium. They also reproduce by binary fission. So say you have a bacteria here. Let's say it's this parent cell. The nucleus is going to make copies of the chromosomes, or it's going to replicate the number of chromosomes. Now don't ask me, we don't need to know how much chromosomes in a bacteria. All right, we are not concerned with that. What we are concerned with is these steps. So the nucleus is eventually going to divide. Then you're going to have that parent cell starting to kind of split in the center. And then eventually it splits into two, and they both contain the nucleus, which contain the same number of chromosomes, same genetic information. So that is why it's going to be a clone of the parent. All right, so that's a binary fission, very similar, right? And then we have asexual reproduction in flowering plants. So we are seeing asexual reproduction taking. Yeah.
I didn't know that bacteria had a nucleus. I thought the DNA was just
Well, this one is
inside.
actually amoeba. This one is called amoeba. And bacteria, yeah, you're correct. Bacteria don't have a nucleus. So maybe what we can get a little diagram of binary fission in a bacteria, just to compare. All right, so you don't, let's see how it would look in the bacteria. So looking at this one here, let's get that okay, so this is a bacteria. This is the best figure I could find. Let me see. It's kind of small, but okay, so basically this is your bacteria. Yes, bacteria, they don't have a nucleus. They just have their chromosomes that are scattered in the cytoplasm. It's just floating there. So the chromosomes are just going to make a copy. The cell itself is going to start to elongate, and it's going to kind of divide, start making that division. and then it splits into 2, and you have your same number of chromosomes. So that's just the difference there. All right, it's the same process. This amoeba, however, amoeba is a very unique organism. If you were to research, amoeba is found in tap water. It's a very, very interesting organism. They just tend to see it in ponds and so forth. And they are very dangerous if you were to drink amoeba. So they tend to have that well, this one not even showing a nucleus. Okay, yes, you see a nucleus in this one. So that's a little different. So amoeba, they tend to tie it in as a bacteria, as a microorganism, but it has as you can see, it have a nucleus, right? So don't get confused. The process is the same, right? And the end result is a chromosome that is making copies and eventually splitting. So let's move on to asexual in plants. So there are some plants that reproduce asexually. We also call this method vegetative propagation, right? Just a fancy name to say vegetative reproduction. So this could occur naturally, and humans could also get involved to propagate plants, but we call it artificial propagation. So onions, garlic, dasheen, edos, ginger, if you were to just leave them alone, they can make copies of themselves. They can reproduce on their own. They don't need a mate. They don't need any sex organisms, sex gametes, sex cells involved. They are able to make clones of themselves. So the first one, this criteria is called a bulb. Bulbs are onions and garlic. They tend to form a bud. So if you were to leave an onion out, anyone ever notice if you were to take an onion and put it in a glass of water, you put the onion in some water, you would see roots start to form. Then you start to see something protruding out of the center. You call it, that's a bud. So a bud is what's going to reproduce asexually, and is going to grow into a plant, and eventually it's going to bear onions that resembles the parent. All right. Same thing for garlic. Dasheen, edos, same thing. They tend to form buds. Ginger, lily, all of them form that kind of bud formation. All right. So you don't need to know the structures of each and every part, but you have to know that they form buds. All right. Any questions here? I will actually pause. I will pause up to, I will stop up to artificial. So let's go through these 2 slides. And next week I'll continue with artificial and then do meiosis. Now you have stem tubers, root tubers, taproots. These are also different types of plants that can reproduce naturally using asexual reproduction. Stem tubers are like English potato, right? The English potato is your regular white potato. Root tubers tend to be like sweet potato and cassava. They are formed from roots. And then tap roots tend to be like carrots, turnips. And if you leave those naturally, they're going to continue its growth by forming a bud or forming a shoot or elongating the root and eventually forming a clone of the parent. So these are examples of plants that can reproduce asexually. All right. Let's hear from Jaden. Can you read stem tuber?
Stem tuber. The stem tuber is the enlarged tip of an underground stem. Buds or eyes appear at nodes or depressions where the leaves were once attached. During favorable conditions, one or more buds will sprout new plants. Irish or English potato is an example of a stem tuber.
All right, thank you. Keenan, root tuber.
Root tuber. Root tubers such as sweet potato and cassava are fibrous, adventitious, adventitious roots that become enlarged with food reserves. These fleshy enlarged roots serve as the storage organ, which provides the nutrients for the new shoot that arises from a bud.
And Alyssa, taproot.
Taproot. Carrots and turnips are examples of enlarged taproots, main roots which contain store food. The new shoot develops at the top of the taproot.
All right, so I would just show a diagram just so you can get an idea of how the stem tuber looks, which is your regular white potato. This is a nice one. Right, we're finishing very soon. Very soon we'll finish. I don't know why it's so small. Now you don't have to know the parts, you just have to understand that they are able to reproduce asexually. So this is your potato. This is a potato is grown. Basically, you have a stem that elongates, and this stem is going to form. It's going to basically form up a storage organ, which is a potato. The potato itself will have little eyes. Those eyes are called buds, and they can develop into a plant. So if you leave a potato alone, eventually you're going to have some roots that are going to form. It's going to burst into a shoot, and eventually it's going to form up a plant that is identical to the parent. All right, that is how the stem tubers look, and let's look at the root tuber. Root tuber will be the sweet potato. Okay, this is a nice one here. I will add these images to the slides just to add, but I find some of them coming out small. Small. But basically the root tuber, the only difference is it's not formed from the stem. All right, it's basically the root that is going to stretch, elongate, and eventually keep forming the sweet potato. Then the potato itself will contain those little buds that will grow and develop into its own plant. All right, and then the taproot, just for you to get an idea of the taproots are like carrots. So you have, let's say you had a carrot. Carrots is like you have like this long area where you're going to have a lot of roots, tiny roots that are able to disperse into the soil. But the main root, which is the taproot, it can keep elongating and growing, which can continue developing that stored food, which is the carrot. So it can eventually, you keep making copies of itself or of the parent plant. So if you had a carrot and you were to place it, the leafy part at the bottom is going to generate roots and is going to grow into its own plant. All right, so that's, but maybe you could test it out. You could take a carrot, you could take a potato and just leave it. Leave it in a suitable condition and you will see it starts to form into a plant. All right, so I'm just going to X off these things. What homework I will just allow you to go through the slides with mitosis and learn all the stages. I want to give you a quiz, just like what we did last week, the online quiz on mitosis. So go through that. Next week, I will correct from page 88 onwards. I want to correct the second part of reproduction in plants. And that will be all for today. Any questions?
No, miss.
No, miss.
All right, so have a good afternoon. See you all next week.
Yeah,
Bye,
miss.
miss.